If you still think we're the first advanced civilization to exist on Earth, then this will change your mind and blow it at the same time. Okay, so this is a map of pyramids all around the world, all allegedly built independently of each other and all having identical structures that follow this similar step pattern. Now I know, most historians will tell you, oh, it's just the easiest tall structure to build. It's human nature. If it's so easy, why are our 21st century brains not capable of doing what dozens of ancient civilizations have repeatedly been able to do? We got the famous pyramids of Djoser in Egypt, but everyone knows about those. Across the world, there's Chichen Itza, Pyramid de los Nichos, Tikal Temple, the Great Pyramid of Cholula, among others in Mexico. And then on the other side of the planet, we got Ko Ker and Prasat Baksay Chem Krong in Cambodia. Off the coast of a tiny Japanese island deep within the ocean is the sunken Yonaguni monument, a supposed 10,000 years old, older than even the Egyptian pyramids. All with a nearly identical look, yet built by completely different cultures with zero contact among each other and thousands of kilometers apart. But this is just the tip. We got way more lesser known pyramids, even older than the Egyptian ones, that ain't even standing anymore. Like the Gunung Padang temple in Indonesia. Doesn't look so hot now, but used to be a step pyramid a whole 9,000 years ago. At least that's what they thought, until a more recent radiocarbon analysis shows that the lower parts of this temple go as far back as 28,000 years. Then this enormous hill in Bosnia was studied, and almost every archaeologist that visited it confirmed that it could not have been naturally formed, perfectly aligning to true north among many other characteristics of pyramids. These studies found out this hidden monument is over 35,000 years old and would be the oldest and largest pyramid in the world, hidden under years of vegetation. But the Bosnian government strangely halted further study on this thing for some reason. There's a crazy story behind what they found there, which honestly deserves its own video, so I'll probably be dropping that sometime. Fallen Pyramid of Hellinikon in Greece has boulders that are joined so tightly that even a human hair can't fit through the joints without any sort of ancient cement used. Built around 3000 BC, meanwhile, an almost identical masonry techniques was found in these walls in the city of Cusco in Peru, called Sacsayhuaman, over 11,000 kilometers away. And how old are these walls? Mainstream history will tell you they were built around the 15th century, but researchers recently uncovered a writing system built directly within the blocks of these walls that's well over 30,000 years old. Again, a topic that deserves its own video coming soon. This exact method is also found on a site called Ahu'vinapu on the remote Easter Island, older than even their legendary Moai heads, as well as Khafre's Valley Temple in Egypt. How did our ancient ancestors figure out these identical building techniques completely independent of each other when we still have no idea how they did it to this day? Now we get to the Ellsworth Mountains in Antarctica. Okay, get your tinfoil hats ready for this one, because this satellite footage from 2016 shows what could be a pyramid buried in the South Pole. This map from 1513 by sailor Piri Reis shows a perfectly accurate coastline of Antarctica, even though it wasn't officially discovered 300 years later in 1820. What's weird is this map connects South America to Antarctica, which it could very well be that over 10,000 years ago these two continents were connected by a sheet of ice. Researchers claim this map was sourced from an even more ancient document that survived from the Library of Alexandria in Egypt, which was destroyed by the Romans. What if the builders of Giza left this map as directions as to where else they put pyramids around the world? And the pyramids are just the start. Take a look at these ancient artifacts from Bolivia, Turkey, Indonesia, and Easter Island. 4 completely separate corners of the world, all with identical carvings and artistic styles used, and again, thousands of kilometers apart and absolutely no contact among each other. Just another coincidence, right? Now get a load of this one here. I know it sounds crazy, but you'd be surprised. Ancient lasers, or at least some form of precision cutting technology that is on par with our modern drilling methods. From these perfectly cut stone patterns in Pumpampunku, Bolivia, to the unfinished obelisk at Aswan and the boxes at the Serapeum of Saqqara in Egypt, made of granite, one of the hardest materials ever, with insane accuracy only achievable with today's technology. The Al Nasla rock in Saudi Arabia literally looks like a giant laser beam just cut right through it. Meanwhile, the Kailash temple in India, which was somehow cut into a cliffside with perfectly symmetrical hallways carved with copy-paste level precision. Not to mention the perfect doorways carved into Barabar caves thousands of years earlier. And these star holes found in Flint Quarry, Massachusetts, and even all the way in Norway, all indicating some sort of highly advanced drilling or precision laser technology used. The incredible list of similarities among these ancient cultures tells us that they all clearly had some sort of external influence that guided them, which they actually recorded proof of directly into their stone tablets, wall carvings, and hieroglyphics. Alright, that might be enough for now. I think I'll save that for another video, so keep an eye out for that one if I don't disappear before then. Hey, the real Pharaoh's curse is that we haven't built a pyramid bigger than Giza yet. I mean, just look at it. This thing is massive and it's over 4,000 years old. Oh, but we do have a pyramid bigger than that and nobody's talking about it. The Great Pyramid of Giza is peanuts against the buried Pyramid of the Sun in Bosnia, and you will not believe what they found there. In 2005, archaeologist Dr. Samiros Monagic realized, hey, this hill in the small Bosnian city of Visoko is oddly shaped like a pyramid. And shaped like a pyramid was an understatement. This hill has virtually every characteristic of a real pyramid, and we continue to ignore it. To start, it has 4 triangular sides. That's it, pyramid confirmed, we're done. Joking, but it's got even grade slopes and corners that connect perfectly under the foliage, along with an apex at the very top, the exact shape of a pyramid, but oh, it don't end there, Johnny boy. It's also perfectly aligned to the cardinal directions, north, east, south, and west, much like Giza. In fact, this one is even more aligned to true north than Giza, being only 1/300th of a degree off from perfect north, whereas Giza is 2/60ths of a degree off. They even took EMF, electromagnetic frequency readers, to the top and saw readings of 60 times more of what is normally expected on Earth. Another phenomenon that tends to occur at the pyramids, and the reason why is so mind-baffling that we'll have to save that for a future video. This hill was aptly named the Bosnian Pyramid of the Sun, the first pyramid of its kind in Europe, taller than the Great Pyramid of Giza and even bigger than the biggest pyramid of the world, Cholula in Mexico, with 4 other smaller hills around it that are also suspected to be pyramids or some other structures, as is usually the case at these ancient sites. Sure, it might just look like a hill covered in trees, but have a look at what the Pyramid of the Sun in Teotihuacan, Mexico looked like before it was excavated and after. Same with Machu Picchu and after, and Chichen Itza and after. Any ancient site that isn't in a desert is typically covered with overgrowth, and the Bosnian Pyramid is looking a lot like that before stage. And just have a look at these drone shots and tell me these formations look natural to you. So Dr. Osmanagic began the excavations, and now get this, radiocarbon analysis taken from the rocks hidden beneath the vegetation revealed that this pyramid would be over 35,000 years old, the oldest pyramid in the world by a long shot, over 30,000 years older than Giza, during a time in which traditional history claims only tribes and cavemen incapable of erecting such monuments roamed the earth, far before any civilizations began to form, or so we think. For reference, here's a timeline of all major ancient civilizations and structures built around the world. And here is where the Bosnian Pyramid would stand in that timeline. Excavations also revealed huge blocks of 7 tons each, stacked with geopolymer binding, which is an ancient type of cement, and perfect placement, along with perfectly landscaped terraces and other obvious architectural design, but oh no, these are all natural. Note that this was all uncovered up to a meter underground, as would be expected of a pyramid over 35,000 years old. And of course, the archaeological gatekeepers of the world insisted this is just coincidental, with some even going as far as saying Dr. Osmanagic purposely placed these carved stones here to deceive the public. And famed Egyptologist Zahi Hawass, who oversees most of the Egyptian pyramid investigations, even petitioning the Bosnian government to stop these excavations. Within hours of this international discovery, the story is swept under the rug and labeled a hoax. Well, over 50 archaeologists around the world remained optimistic and actually joined Osmanagic's work in Bosnia, with virtually every single one of them who actually saw it in person confirming that nature could not have formed these hills. Further studies revealing an entire underground tunnel system in the area, the longest subterranean complex of any pyramid in the world. Inside these tunnels, large stone blocks were found that clearly seemed to be artificially created and placed. Other artifacts like this giant round stone that no one can explain, and a whole bunch of other smaller ancient trinkets, statues, and even what appears to be a map carved into stone were all found around the Bosnian Valley of Pyramids, all dismissed as irrelevant or flat out ignored by mainstream archaeology. Even the peak of the Sun Pyramid forms a perfect triangle with the peaks of the nearby hills, dubbed the Pyramids of the Moon and the Dragon. Another crazy coincidence, right? After much pushback, the government actually did grant Osmanagic the right to continue excavations, but with no official funding, the entire project depends on donations and volunteer work. These excavations are still going on, but after tourism to Bosnia slowed down in the last couple of years, progress on these pyramids have as well. As with anything, you could probably rationalize a completely valid reason for each of these discoveries, and maybe it really is somehow just a hill. So you think we're tweaking on this one, or are we onto something? Who's ready to get digging? Ancient Egyptian tombs inside the Grand Canyon? That's what an explorer found right before the government closed the area off from the public. Way back in 1909, the Arizona Gazette reported a story of a miner, G.E. Kincaid, looking for gold in the Grand Canyon. While journeying down the river, he came across what looked like steps carved into the canyon side, so he decides to check it out. The steps, he claimed, were perfectly carved, not a natural formation, and as he approached the top, he came across a man-made cave entrance, which do exist all around the Grand Canyon, but this one was different. He went inside, turned on his light, and saw tunnels chiseled with perfect architecture and more branching paths deeper inside. He kept going until he comes across an enormous room several hundred feet long. In the middle stood a giant statue of what looked like Buddha, holding lotus flowers in each hand. Now, Buddha has nothing to do with ancient Egypt, which actually makes this more of a mind trip, but we're getting there, I promise. This looks like it was an ancient underground city, which actually exists all around the world in places like Derinkuyu in Turkey. Kincaid was amped. This has got to be the discovery of the century, so of course he leaves and asks for funding to explore more from the Smithsonian, the world-leading museum research and education institute, the gatekeeper of archaeological findings, made by the US government, who gladly agree. They send a team of scientists and miners led by S.A. Jordan to fully excavate this mind-blowing discovery. With this team backing the expedition, Kincaid goes back to the caves and realized he barely scratched the surface. He left extremely detailed journal entries describing the whole excavation, with hallways up to 12 feet wide and large oval doorways throughout the underground complex. During this excavation, they find full-size rooms which appear to have been made for dining, winding halls with detailed architecture, and artifacts like pottery, urns, and to their surprise, copper tools and swords, along with rooms built for metalwork. All signs of an ancient civilization far more advanced than what should have been here at the time. But then they find this: Egyptian hieroglyphs carved and painted on the walls, and stone tablets with similar hieroglyphs engraved. And then finally what appeared to be a crypt, filled with little cubby holes in the walls, each containing mummies of giant humanoids, some even being reported as reptilian looking. Yeah, Egyptian tombs in the Grand Canyon. They call this complex the Citadel, and by the end of their expedition, hundreds of rooms were discovered, estimated to house up to 50,000 people. They determined that, of course, this must be the remains of an advanced civilization that were here before the natives, and somehow brought the knowledge of the ancient Egyptians from the other side of the world into the Americas. G.E. Kincaid and S.A. Jordan presented their Egyptian hypothesis to the Smithsonian, who obviously did not like the sound of that and denied further excavation. Egyptian hieroglyphs spotted outside of Egypt? Absolute nonsense, right? Maybe, but this isn't the only time that such a claim was made, like the Gosford hieroglyphs carved into rock in Australia, which look almost identical to that of the Egyptians. It's hard to tell exactly how old they are, but of course they're labeled a hoax. Someone else carved them here a few years ago to trick the world. Or the written language of the Mi'kmaq, a Native American tribe that lived along the Atlantic coast, which shares a baffling number of similarities with Egyptian hieroglyphs, two cultures that allegedly had no contact among each other. This one was just a coincidence, of course, just like the Fuente Magna bowl found in Bolivia with Proto-Sumerian cuneiform script writing on it. That's ancient Mesopotamian writing uncovered in South America. So artifacts of ancient Middle Eastern civilizations found in the Americas have happened, but we just ignore them. To this day, the Smithsonian denies this expedition in the Grand Canyon ever happened, and the stories of the explorers are of course deemed a hoax. So is any of this real? The native indigenous people seem to think so. Native American tribes like the Navajo, Zuni, Acoma Pueblo have legends of a race that existed there before them, even citing the Grand Canyon specifically as the place where the first people emerged from. These myths all speak of either a race of reptilians, yes, we're in lizard people territory now, or giants that civilized the area, building underground cities to protect themselves. The Hopi tribe even have a story about a sky god who, after a series of cataclysms, emerged from a moving star and took the tribe to underground caves in the Grand Canyon region to protect them. The Havasupai people believe the canyon is the home of the Supai, the spirit of their ancestors. The Paiute culture got the legend of the Havmusubs, who also lived in an underground city and had silver tubes that shot lightning that could end a man's life, and silver canoes in the sky, which all line up perfectly with the flood myths, not to mention UFO sightings, around the world where godlike beings descend from the sky and gift civilization to humanity. And is exactly why the Smithsonian cringes at the thought of admitting to this, because it would imply that cultures like the ancient Egyptians had overseas contact with the Americas, completely destroying their current narrative of isolationism, which states that groups of humans evolved independently of each other all around the world. Today, this section of the Grand Canyon has some interesting official names for the formations found here, like the Tower of Set, Horus, Isis Temple, Ra, the Cheops Pyramid, all Egyptian names, and these formations have the weirdest, most interesting shapes, unlike those found in any other canyon. Alright, enough yapping. Where is this cave, and can't we just go to it today to prove this once and for all? Really thought it was that easy, huh? The exact area where the Citadel would be found has, of course, been marked off limits by the government. The Grand Canyon has hundreds of man-made caves all over it that are confirmed real, with only 30 that have been officially mapped out, some of which are sealed with steel gates for safety. When amateur explorers tried checking out the region, planes and helicopters would appear out of nowhere over areas designated as no-fly zones, some claiming they can even spot remnants of pyramids and other ancient structures in the cliffs of the canyon, implying the Grand Canyon may actually be the site of a bustling ancient city. Rumors of ancient Egyptian remains in underground cities in the Grand Canyon. Government closes the area off, and then planes and drones are found scouting the area. Are they hiding something from us, or am I just gonna get stitched into another Mr. Know-It-All debunking video?